Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough, the Parenting Through Challenges podcast. I'm your host, Angie Grandt, and today I want to talk about holidays. It, in our family, we celebrate Christmas. There are also several other holidays here in the winter season that are part of our family. My Most of our family birthdays are in November and December. And we also celebrate New Year's Eve here as well. And I, when I think back 10 years ago or so, and I put myself back in the place of the holidays, I used to hate them. Christmas or whatever your family celebrates is supposed to be full of joy and excitement and family. And I know some families have stress, right? Maybe hanging out with your in-laws or with your grouchy uncle or whatever it might be. I know that that can cause stress, but the entire experience of the holidays, I didn't enjoy it. I think that I did before my son came into my life, and it feels awful to say that, but here is where I share my truth. That when my daughter was younger, so she was about 10 when we adopted our son, and she enjoyed the holidays. They were easy for her. She didn't really ask for much of anything. We'd go through the look through the wish list to find some things that she wanted, but I always got the impression that she was happy just to be with us, to have see the lights and decorate the tree and play in the snow and do all of the family holiday things. And then when our son joined our family, everything shifted. He came to us with already some history about his feelings and thoughts about the holidays. And I don't even know exactly what those were. Um it it wasn't apparent to me at first why the holidays were so hard. But I remember going into the first couple of Christmases with our new family. And I remember that each year my stress level went up and up and up. And now, mind you, I didn't know anything at that time about the control that I really could have over my thoughts and feelings. I was very much in a victim state to the circumstances in my life, and I didn't know what to do about that. But I'm here sharing my story because I know I'm not alone. I know that when we're raising kids who have challenging behaviors, who have a traumatic past, it can put unexpected stress into parts of our lives that once brought us much joy. I remember at first really struggling with what I perceived to be greed. So I was following the same practice that I had with my daughter in the idea of, let's go through the wish list from the local stores and pick out your favorite things, something that you might want to ask Santa for. And the list from my son was so expensive and so big. And I remember thinking right away, there's no way I could ever fulfill his wishes. There's no way that it would be fair or even match my values of getting him what he wanted. And I already had quite a bit of evidence that even if I did give him what he wanted, he still wasn't going to be happy. Although there was this pressure and this request for big things, it didn't create the joy that I think he had hoped or I had hoped. And so, just with the gifts themselves, I felt this insurmountable pressure that I felt like there was no way out of it. I now know when I look through the lens of human design that I probably was feeling some pressure, some root pressure, because I have that undefined root. So it's possible for sure that I was feeling some pressure to fulfill his wishes when maybe he wasn't putting as much pressure on me as I perceived. But I didn't know that then, of course. So that was part of it. I could, I worked through that. We ended up creating a system in our home where the gifts for everybody were pretty minimal, but instead of gifts, we would spend Christmas Eve on a family adventure. And we put a lot of thought and planning into the adventures that we would take the kids on. We went and played laser tag. We went on scavenger hunts. We went to the movies. Um, Man, I can't even, I think we went to an escape room one year. So we really focused on the family and connection part of the day instead of focusing so much on the gifts. Of course, I'm not really sure how my son handled that, other than he could see that things were being fair and equitable between him and his sister, and soon his my boyfriend's daughter too. So I feel like I worked through that in a way that felt like it met my values and minimized the frustration in the home. But that wasn't the only thing that caused me so stress. And in fact, the thing that caused me the most stress was going out to connect with family, going to family members' homes for the holidays. And I remember just struggling so much with the fear of leaving my son unsupervised. In our home, we were dealing with so many behaviors that we had systems in place in our home to, minimize the problematic behaviors, minimize the stealing, minimize the sneakiness, or at least feel like I had it under control, whatever in the heck that means. But that fear of going to other people's homes where maybe they didn't feel the need to, lock up their wallets or purses or keep their car keys hidden or things like that caused me so much stress. And at the time, caused me to create a dynamic of changing the perception of the people in our lives, right? Telling family members that we're coming over, and I ask that if you want to ensure that none of your things go missing, lock up things that matter to you. And I hated it. I hated everything about that dynamic of not trusting my son. I hated that dynamic of being on edge every moment while we were hanging out with family during a time that was supposed to be filled with joy and love and connection and family. And I felt like a drill sergeant. I felt like I was on edge, waiting for the next thing, anxious about his request to go to the bathroom or his request to go hang out and watch a movie. I felt on edge with not trusting him. And I felt on edge with what I knew my words were creating a dynamic that was only making relationships harder for him. But I didn't know a way out. I didn't know a different way to handle it, right? I go to families' homes, my family's homes, hanging out with my boyfriend's family, whatever it might be. And I didn't want them to have the same experience that we were having at home where, things were going missing or there was maybe a security breach. And I didn't know how to handle that. Here's what I have since learned, and I guess some practical tips that I want to share with you is, it's always easier when we look back to see where we could have changed, where we could have done things differently. When I think about what was really going on there, right? At the core, I knew that the behaviors were driven by trauma. I knew that. And yet I didn't know what to do about it in the moment other than to go into protection mode, other than to go into this high alert, hypervigilant mode where I was really just prepared to put out any little fire that might come up. What I know now is, well, a couple of things. One, those behaviors were fueled by trauma, which means that the solution should have been less about being hypervigilant and more about connection. If the behaviors that I was seeing were a reflection of feeling unlovable, feeling like he wasn't worthy, feeling like he didn't belong. My goodness. I think about it now, being an adopted child in a home where everybody's kind of worried about him making a mistake, stealing, sneaking, whatever it might be. Of course, he felt like he didn't belong. And I unknowingly fueled that fire. I thought that I was protecting all of the people that I love, my son included, right? I didn't want him to get in more trouble. I didn't want people to hate him. And yet, by me focusing on the behaviors and instead of focusing on the real underlying issue, the resiliency key that was broken, was damaged, by me focusing on the behaviors and trying to mitigate, I was really missing the point. Like I said, holidays are about family, they're about connection. And that's not how I was spending my energy. I was spending my energy on being in survival mode. And I get it, right? Like, I know how humans work. And when we feel fearful, we go into survival mode. And I was full of fear. I was full of fear of the damage that his behaviors could cause in all of my relationships, including my relationship with him. I didn't want more, um, more kind of logs on that fire that were putting a wedge between me and my son. And yet, by me being in this protective mode, I was the one putting the logs on the fire. But I did it because I was afraid that he was going to be the one that was doing it, right? I was afraid that he was going to be the one who added fuel to that fire. When I think about what I know now and what I am working on embodying, what I'm supporting my clients with, it is about really understanding not only those mistaken motivations that were driving that behavior, right? I think about through that lens of mistaken motivations, he very much was displaying the mistaken motivation of revenge. And I think that it was fueled by his lack of feeling of belonging, his lack of feeling of being worthy or loved in our home. Despite me trying so hard to help him believe that he does belong, that he is lovable, I know that my actions didn't match my words. I know that now. Back then, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I couldn't see it that clearly, but I certainly do now. So, here are my tips for you. If you're going into the holidays with your kids and you're worried, you're maybe not even looking forward to the holidays because of how your kids might behave, whether it's about feeling like we can't satisfy their requests or feeling like you're going to be on guard because of their behaviors or something else. I really encourage you to take a step back, reassess your goals first, right? What is your goal of the holidays? Is it to get through them and to survive the holidays? Or is it to connect with family, to remember what love feels like when you're all together? So I would first recommend that um, if holidays are stressful for you, that reassess your goals. Really think about it. I don't think that we do that, right? We don't take a step back before we go into the next thing. We're creatures of habit and we just keep going through the hamster wheel of the next day and the next day and the next day without really thinking through why we're doing it or what we hope the outcome to be. We instead go into each new day, oftentimes with fear, with fear that it's going to be just like it was the last time, which caused us stress, or fear. Yeah, just we go into our days with either fear or just no planning at all. So, what do you want? What is your goal for the holidays with your family? And then after you've established your goal, I would really encourage you to to assess yourself and your loved ones, to really ask yourself, do I feel confident that my child will feel like they belong while we're, at our holiday gatherings? Do I really, do I really in my heart believe that my child will feel like they're loved, feel like they're valued, feel like they're precious, feel like they're empowered over what's happening in their life? Do they get a choice about where you go or what you do or how much time you spend there? Or do you follow obligations of what you think you're supposed to do? And if, as you're assessing your kids and assessing yourself through just a handful of the resiliency keys, if you find that your answer is no to any of them, right? If your answer is, my child probably really doesn't feel like they belong, or my spouse really doesn't feel like they're empowered or have any kind of choice over what's happening, then reflect on what can you do about that. Right? We can't control other people at all, but the way that we show up for the people that we love, the way that we show up for ourselves, the way that we create space for others to heal and grow and be involved, we get to choose that. We get to choose the kind of space that we give to those that we love. So that's my challenge for you this holiday season is to really create a goal about what you want for your holidays, for your family, and to assess where everybody's at. And if anybody's off track, including yourself, then what can you do about that? If you're not sure what to do about it, of course, I always invite you. I'm holding space for you to book a connection clarity call. That this is what I love. I love helping families to reconnect, and I love using where I went wrong, quite frankly, and what I've learned and what I've integrated in my heart, in my family, in the way that I'm approaching the people that I love. I I love using that to support others in doing the same so that you don't have to feel as much pain as I did. It's, I believe wholeheartedly that it is in my design that I had to feel the pain first. I think as humans, we're all designed to struggle. It's part of our growth, right? We have to struggle, but none of us are designed to suffer. None of us are designed to suffer. And yet, oftentimes we find ourselves in that space. And I think when we find ourselves in that space where we're suffering, it should be a key signal to us that it's time to do something different. It's time to take a different approach. It's time to look at things differently or get the support that you need so that you're not in that space of suffering anymore and you're in that space of growth and expansion and connection. I'm also going to be recording a EFT tapping session about holiday stress. So if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel yet, I post videos at least every couple of days. I'm very regularly posting about the energy that we are in. And then I sprinkle in a few other things. So today I'm going to sprinkle in one about holiday stress. So go check it out if that feels right to you. And I wish you and your family holidays full of connection and love and peace. So that's it for today. We will talk soon.